Have you ever stopped to think how much a piece of the planet costs? Not an apartment or a factory, but an entire island the size of two Alaskas. Imagine this. You walk up to your neighbor and say, "Sell me half your house. I'm going to put missiles there, AI servers, and drink your tap water." Naturally, the neighbor tells you to get lost, so you start playing mind games, throwing billions at him, and threatening taxes. This isn't a plot from some crazy TV show. This is the real, 150-year-long story of US relations with Greenland. Today, we're going under the ice sheet, digging up lost nuclear bombs from the snow, figuring out who benefits from global warming, and finding out, does Trump really want to buy Greenland, or is he just trolling the entire planet? Get ready. It's gonna be cold, scary, and damn interesting. You know, when Americans first looked at Greenland, you're probably thinking during Trump or Kennedy. Wrong. There was this guy, William Seward, 1868. The US has just finished the Civil War. They already bought Alaska from Russia, and back then, everyone laughed, saying useless ice. Turns out, it was gold. And Seward's like, "Guys, let's get more ice. Look at Greenland, let's buy it. We'll control global trade." Congress told him, "You're an idiot, William." The idea flopped, but Americans are stubborn. In 1910, they offered Denmark a barter deal. "We'll give you a few Philippine islands which we, temporarily occupied, and you give us Greenland." The Danes politely declined. The biggest attempt was in 1946. The war just ended, everything's destroyed, Denmark's broke. America says, "Listen, neighbor, we'll give you $100 million. Real cash, gold." Back then, that's like $1 trillion today. But Denmark, even though it was poor after the occupation, stood its ground and didn't sell that chunk of ice, even though it was hard to believe there was anything there except polar bears. And then comes the magic. In 2019, Trump arrives. Again, sell it. Denmark, no. In 2024, again, Trump Jr. flies to Greenland on a pompous mission, takes photos and jackets with the locals, and he posts on social media, "We need to make Greenland great again." You smell that? That's the smell of an obsession. 150 years, that's not a spontaneous win. Let's break down Trump's most common argument, which he repeats like a mantra. Paraphrasing, we need Greenland to put up the Golden Dome missile defense and intercept Russian nukes. It's the shortest path over the North Pole. And a lot of people nod. Oh, that makes sense. We need protection. Stop. Ask yourself one simple question. If you need to build a fence in your own backyard, do you buy the neighbor's entire property? Or do you just walk over and build the fence? Well, the US already has a treaty with Denmark from 1951. It's called the Defense of Greenland Agreement. And you know what it says in the fine print? The Americans wrote themselves an unlimited right to station any troops, any bases, any missiles on that territory without additional permission. Get it? They don't need to buy anything. They could deploy the Golden Dome tomorrow morning. What's more, Denmark is a NATO member. Article 5 of the Charter. If someone attacks Greenland, that's an attack on the whole alliance. The US is already obligated to defend it. Therefore, Trump's logic is as fake as a $3 bill. Let's dig deeper. Close your eyes and imagine this. Under your house lie billions of tons of oil. But to get them, you need to drill through 3 kilometers of ice. Expensive? Yeah. But look at the map. The US Geological Survey says the Arctic holds 13% of the world's undiscovered oil and 30% of its gas. A huge chunk is near Greenland. But that's old news. The new gold. Rare earth metals. Ever heard of neodymium, dysprosium? No? Well, you should. They're used to make motors for Teslas, iPhones, and Tomahawk missiles. Without them, there are no wind turbines, no F-35s, no Elon Musk. Right now, 70% of all this magic is mined by China. Imagine China turns off the tap tomorrow. The global economy grinds to a halt. America wants to break that dependency. And, in Greenland, by various estimates, there are between 1.5 and 38 million tons of this ore lying around. That's more than Canada and South Africa combined. Sounds like a fairy tale? But there's a catch. Greenland's local government, yes, they have their own government, banned mineral exploration. They care more about nature. They say, don't touch the ice, we don't know what's down there. American companies aren't exactly lining up, because economically, it's suicide. Paradox: to get the treasure, you first have to find it. And to do that, you have to destroy a unique ecosystem. And nobody knows if it'll even be profitable. Trump's solution is simple: buy the island and repeal the bans. But is he ready to invest $1 trillion in infrastructure in the middle of glaciers? Companies aren't exactly eager. Then there's another theory: futuristic. Listen closely. In 2025, Trump announced a $500 billion project, building data centers for the Pentagon and artificial intelligence. What does a data center need? Electricity, lots and cold. Servers get insanely hot. They need tons of water and air to cool them. Where on the planet is there plenty of cold air and seawater? Greenland. Imagine you stick a giant refrigerator right into the ice. Less energy spent, nature helps out. Trump wants to turn the island into a giant computing hub. AI that will run the military, spy on the entire world, and calculate nuclear strikes, living under the Greenland ice sheet. Sounds pretty, right? But again, physics gets in the way. If it's too cold, equipment cracks. If there's a thaw, the data center slides into the ocean. Plus, where do you get the electricity? Nuclear reactors right on the ice? They've tried that. You still with me? Good. Because now comes the craziest part: how Americans already tried to conquer Greenland. And what happened? The Cold War, late 1950s. The US wants to hide nuclear missiles as close to the USSR as possible. Greenland, the perfect launchpad. But Denmark officially bans nuclear weapons on its territory. So what do the clever Americans do? They say, we're just going to study the climate, okay? A science station. Camp Century. They build it under the ice. Tunnels about 350 meters long, 8 meters wide. Inside, living modules, a church, a store, a barber shop, and a full nuclear reactor. $6 million to build in today's money. Multiply by 10. The plan was massive. Project Iceworm. They planned to dig thousands of kilometers of tunnels and install 600 missiles. Flight time to Moscow, 30 minutes. And then, bam. Physics bites back. Ice isn't a wall. Ice is a river. Just a very slow one. 2 years after construction, the tunnels started collapsing. Walls moved, ceilings cracked. The Americans realized, mission impossible. In 1963, they shut down the reactor, dismantled it. But they didn't take all the waste. They left about 180,000 liters of radioactive waste under the ice. Literally dumped nuclear crap in the snow and drove off. Now here's the kicker. The Danes only found out decades later. Scientists calculated, by 2019-50, global warming will melt the ice above that base. All that radioactive sludge will flow into the ocean. Hello, ecological disaster. But that's not even the worst part. The US military has a code word, broken arrow. It means an accidental nuclear bomb drop, the loss of a nuke on a national scale. Officially, 5 such cases have been declassified. One of them, today's story. Greenland, Thule Air Base, 1968. A B-52 crew is preparing for takeoff. The co-pilot, a guy named DeMario, decides his seat is too hard. He grabs a few polyurethane cushions and puts them under his butt. Then changes his mind, shoves them under the seat, right on top of a heating vent. They turn on the engine heat. The plane flies over the Arctic. Half an hour later, DeMario feels his backside getting, well done, smoke. Flames shoot out from under the seat. The cushions are on fire. The cockpit fills with black, toxic smoke. The pilot can't see the instruments. They give the order to eject. The pilotless plane does a loop and slams into the ice. On board were 4 thermonuclear bombs. On impact, they exploded. Fortunately, no nuclear detonation, but plutonium and uranium scattered across the snow like radioactive confetti. The Danes, remember, had banned nukes. They'd signed an agreement on radiation protection, and now there's a glowing black crater in their backyard. America apologized. 3 bombs were recovered. The 4th vanished without a trace under the ice. The generals wrote in the report, "If we can't find it with our technology, nobody will. It's still there, rusting, waiting." You get the scale now? Trump's talk about defense sounds almost mocking when his own country has littered this island with radioactive needles. While we argue about politics, nature is doing its thing. The Greenland ice sheet is the 2nd largest store of fresh water on the planet. There are 3 million cubic meters of ice there, 100 times more than Lake Baikal in Russia. Imagine the climate keeps changing. The ice melts. Sea levels rise by 7 meters. London, Shanghai, parts of New York drown. But some people see business. As the ice retreats, minerals become accessible. And, most importantly, fresh water. Wars over water are already starting around the world, and Greenland is a giant reservoir. Fill a tanker and ship it to Africa or Israel. Plus, new sea routes. The Arctic Ocean is becoming navigable. The trip from Asia to Europe shortens by 40%. Control over Greenland is control over the new Suez Canal. Trump is looking 50 years ahead. He sees a world where the ice is gone, and he wants to stake his claim first. By 2026, according to the seconds have escalated to the limit. Trump imposed tariffs on Denmark, first 10%, then 25%. Europe brought out the trade bazooka, that's a real legal term, allowing asymmetric retaliation. Germany pulled a whopping 15 soldiers out of Greenland. Hilarious. Trump announced that sending European troops to the island is a dangerous game. Official Copenhagen repeats like a mantra, "The island is not for sale." But we welcome American investment. You feel the subtext? We won't sell, but come, build, invest. Just don't annex. Psychologically, Trump doesn't need Greenland. He needs a win, his name in the history books. He wants to become the president who expanded U.S. territory for the first time in 80 years. The last time that happened was in 1947 with Micronesia. If he annexes Greenland, U.S. territory will grow by 1/3. And if he then takes Canada, he's already joked about the 51st state. That would be the largest country in the world. So what's the bottom line? Oil, gas, rare earth metals, water, AI servers, military bases, and the massive ego of one man. But there's one more factor. The people of Greenland. The Inuit, 56,000 people. They don't want to be Americans. They have their own language, one of the hardest in the world, their own culture. They fish, ride snowmobiles, and use taxis. Yeah, there are almost no roads. Their opinion was asked last, "What do you think?" Will Trump buy Greenland before his term ends? Or is this just a duck to distract everyone? Hit subscribe, like, we'll keep following this icy saga. This was Nick's unpopular opinion. Take care of the planet.